We are going to learn more about the African dustbin, grade 10, English first additional language. I need to first indicate that due to COVID-19, many, if not most of our learners could not manage to read the book to the end. But I want to believe that today we are actually going to tackle some of the most important aspects which are entailed in this book. And I also wish to indicate that because this book is lengthy, I have actually divided this lesson into two. The first lesson will actually be on the introduction. This is actually made to provide learners with a vast information before they get deeper into the content of the book. That is the analysis, what happened, and what actually is to transpire going forward. I actually wanted to begin with us trying to describe the title of this book, The African Dustbin. What does it actually mean? We must actually take it from the point of being is. Literally, a waste basket, a dump site, a rubbish bin, a dumpster. Whichever way you call it, you are still correct. Now, when we look at this whole concept of African dustbin, looking at it figuratively, we will understand that it was used as a result of a metaphor, which I think the author has tried to describe the status of the continent of Africa based on the perception of the European people. How the European people look at us, how do they perceive us? That is why, or that is how I think the writer actually came upon this African dustbin. I think much more will be said as far as when we continue. We will actually come to a point whereby we thoroughly and clearly define extensively why this title, African dustbin. There was always a reason why this continent of Africa was actually regarded as a dustbin. It actually emanated from a meeting which was held in Europe by the board of governors of the United European Chemical Company, which actually resulted in the European government abolishing the dumping of the toxic material in the sea. And as a result, the United European Chemical Company had no option but only to want to look for a place where they can come and dump this toxic material. And their reason for identifying Africa as their dump site was merely simply because they think Africa is made of jungles and mountains. And as a result, these people of Africa are seen or looked at as poor savages, which means we are uncivilized. We can't even be able to deal with toxic material. And as a result, it was seen as a very, very good platform where this company could come and dump its toxic material. And then one more other thing that which I need us to look at is to answer this question: why didn't the company continue their toxic material, their dumping of the toxic material in their usual place? Like I've indicated initially, that it was merely because there was a resolution taken by the government that no, enough was enough. There's a lot of toxic material endangering the marine world. And as a result, the decision was that there shouldn't be any more dumping in the sea. as it contaminates the marine world, which in return contaminates those that depend upon the animals that are living in there, which we normally use as as a source of food, like the fish and many more other living creatures that are found in the sea for human consumption. Now, I want us to look at this particular frame that which I have drawn up here in order to clarify what actually happens in the story. Now, if you look at the top there, I've written the African dustbin, which is what is the title of our book. And then from there, we will be then going to dealing with the summary. Why do we have to deal with the summary at this point of time? It's simply because we wanted learners to understand everything that is to happen in the story before they get to read the story. And then the second thing that which we'll be looking at is the characterization. There are many more characters that are being used in this story in order to advance whatever that the author wanted to indicate to us as the audience or as the readers. There are quite a number of characters there. You can see that the United European Chemical Company, led by Mr. Paul Anderson, who was actually assigned to deal with matters of the company based in Africa. And then there will be the board of governors, who are actually the one that determine as to what is to happen with the company. All the decisions that are to be taken were to be enforced by them there. And then they were coming from quite a different number of countries in Europe. And then from there, we'll be going to looking at the following characters: Mthengisi Gwala, Dr. Sibanda, and many others who were also seen as supportive characters. And then from there, we'll be coming to our main character in the name of Dr. Nosizwe Tebe, who was fully supported by the likes of Nyati, Vusimusi Nyati, and Jabulile Ngube. And then at the end, we'll be looking at the characteristics of the cabinet, the Nkululeko cabinet, led by the president of Nkululeko. Now, coming back to the summary, ladies and gentlemen, then in this summary, we actually see the United European Company board members taking a decision to dump their toxic material in Nkululeko, which is being referred to as an African continent. And now, after the European government has banned the dumping of toxic material in the sea or in the ocean, as it was affecting the marine world, as I have indicated. And then they actually the board of governors actually assigned Mr. Paul Anderson to actually find a place in Africa whereby they could dump this toxic material. And indeed, we see Mr. Paul Anderson conniving with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection official in the name of Mthengisi Gwala in order to dump this toxic material in Kizikate district. Then the local people came into contact with this toxic material and became seriously and adversely affected by this toxic material. That is where we saw the patient, the likes of Baba Moyo, who was adversely affected and was admitted at Impilenhle Central Hospital. And from there, we saw Dr. Nosizwe Tebe, who is a junior doctor at Impilenhle Central Hospital, noticed the presence of foreign illness amongst the patients admitted in that particular hospital. And as a result, she took it upon herself trying to find out exactly what might have been the cause of this foreign and unfamiliar symptoms that are shown on each and every patient that are being admitted at Imbilent Hospital. Then upon her investigation, she actually made the blood test with different types of laboratories. And indeed, 5 of the laboratories where the blood samples were taken have attested indeed that there was a toxic material consumed by these people of Tlezikale. And she actually took the matter up with the superintendent, the hospital superintendent, who unfortunately could not help her in any way. She then escalated the matter to the office of the Ministry of Minister of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection, headed by Mr. Mthengisi Gwala, whom, like his collaborator, denied to help, citing that that was a political matter. And it having been a political matter, it must be left for politicians to deal with it. Theirs is to look at after the patient, making sure that correct medication is being supplied to the patient, regardless the fact that nurses were trying to persuade them to understand that indeed there was a problem at Tlezikale, and that actually is not a political issue. It is a health issue, and them as people within the Ministry of Health, their responsibility, their primary responsibility should be looking after what could be the cause, where the cause arise. And because I want to believe that, because both Mthengisi Gwala and Dr. Sibanda knew that that was as a result of the toxic material dumped at Tlezikale. They denied at all costs because they knew that if they were to leave this matter going to get the attention of their seniors, surely it will backfire on them. So they tried by all means to actually underpin her, not to take the matter up with the relevant stakeholders. And then that actually prompted Dr. Nosizwe to actually start on a campaign with an attempt to force the authorities to take an action, which led ultimately to the suspension of, which led to her suspension in that regard. She was indeed suspended, but that did not shift her from what she believed in, that the people should be serviced, and then people should be given the best out from the Ministry of Health. And the government of Nkululeko was actually made aware of this particular problem, wherein we saw the cabinet acting decisively against the perpetrators. Dr. Tebe, who led the campaign to alert the authorities, got acknowledgement from the president in the form of a national award, which was the highest award given to a person of this nature, this Nosijo's caliber. And despite her new status, she remained in her post as a doctor, and then dedicated to the services of her country and the people in the health sector. She was never moved by a new status that now she must start thinking about moving from the Department of Health, going somewhere else, or even joining the politics with the aspirations of becoming a minister in one of the departments. But she remained there, she remained loyal to herself, she remained loyal to the people of Nkululeko, and then she worked there doing what she enjoyed most. Now that we are actually, know and understand the whole summary, what is the book all about? Remember that at the end, which I nearly forgotten to indicate that the likes of all those collaborators, the likes of Paul Anderson, all those 5 out of 7 board members, Mtengi Sigwala, Dr. Sibanda, they were all arrested. And that was actually what happened, and that brings us to the end of our summary. Let us take a break, then we'll come looking at the characterization. Thank you.
Find us on social media. Facebook, Waterberg FM 99.3. What's that? I don't know, man. I just gotta have it. Twitter. Waterberg FM. You already know what it is. Waterberg FM 99.3. We are restoring your identity. Waterberg FM 99.3. Go with the flow. Things about to get crazy. Lebalade, Somane, we've got your number. Don't touch the dial. Crazy, silly, fresh, Waterberg FM.